In this video, I'll be breaking down and analysing the lieutenant of the 3rd Division, Izuru Kira. Kira has a somber and introverted personality, but through his character we truly get to understand what it means to be a Shinigami. Kira literally embodies the weight of duty via his Zanpakuto Wabisuke, which is literally able to force his opponents to bow down their heads in submission to him. His Zanpakuto ability is an incredible metaphor for what his character represents, as he is somebody who bears the burden of authority as well as being able to inflict it onto others. From his early days within the Shinigami Academy to becoming the lieutenant under Gin Ichimaru, and then later surviving a devastating injury during the 1000-Year Blood War arc, Kira's journey is really fascinating to examine. And since his character had made a prominent appearance within the No Breeds from Hell one-shot chapter, you can definitely bet that we're going to be seeing more of him in the future. In this video, I'll be examining the transformation of Kira's character by going over his entire story within the Bleach manga, as well as some additional material that we learn from him in some side stories which you may not know about, like beginning of the revive of tomorrow. Do stick around until the very end of this video because you'll hopefully understand why Kubo once said that Kira's Bankai would be too nauseating for him to draw. So without further delay, here is my complete breakdown and analysis of Izuru Kira. We got really tired of the same old boring anime shirts, so we decided to launch Getsuga.com with the aim of creating designs inspired by our favorite anime and manga. We came up with designs that look cool and represent all of our favorite stories. Check out the latest Instinct collection, which features some amazing designs like this Frosted Heavens design inspired by Toshiro Hitsugaya, or this Instinct design inspired by Holo Ichigo, and my personal favorite, which is the Heart design, which was inspired by Ukiura Shifa. Do not miss out, go to Getsuga.com and wear your favorite stories. Kira makes his debut appearance within chapter 72 of the manga and in episode 21 of the anime. Kira's most notable feature is his blonde hair, which is usually combed to one side covering his left eye. Kira's appearance continues to alter all the way up until 12 years following the defeat of Yhwach during the No Breeds from Hell one-shot chapter, where we see him wearing a modified hooded Shinigami Shihakusho, and he still appears to have the injuries that he had sustained during the 1000-Year Blood War arc. Kira's personality presents us with several different contrasts. Outwardly, his demeanor is very introspective, as it's evident that he struggles with social interactions. While this may appear to be a weakness because he is a lieutenant of the 3rd Division, it actually provides him with several unique strengths in observation as well as his critical thinking, which helps him to come up with strategies in battle. Kira's tendency to analyze what's going on thoroughly makes him very adept at detecting unusual behavior as well as very subtle changes in his environment. Kira is a character who is not to be underestimated. Often, a lot of his flaws that he presents transform into some of his greatest strengths. He appears to have a very pessimistic worldview, as he believes that battles should be rooted in despair rather than pride and glory, but this demonstrates that he has a profound understanding of the true nature of conflicts. His beliefs shape his approach towards battle, while he fights not for honor like most Shinigami or excitement like individuals from the 11th Division. He fights with determination for the sole purpose of carrying out his given orders. And other than that, Kira typically hates fighting, unless he has been told to do so. In chapter 101, we had seen Kira defend his captain Gin Ichimaru after a grief-ridden Momo had accused Gin of Aizen's death. In chapter 127, we do see Kira regret raising his sword against Momo, his close friend, even if it was for the sake of defending his captain, as he calls himself a monster for doing so. It's really interesting to examine the growth of Kira's character, especially when you compare how he had behaved during his days in the Shinigami Academy. He was typically a top-ranking student, and he was so confident with his decisions that it was bordering on arrogance. However, after his experiences within the Gotei 13, especially after serving as a lieutenant under Captain Gin Ichimaru, it had led to Kira becoming somebody who deeply questions both himself and some aspects of his duty as a Shinigami. From this, we can confirm that Kubo has deeply woven in themes of responsibility and guilt into Kira's character. Kira was born into a lesser known noble family, and he had a pretty upsetting early life with the loss of his parents at a young age. It makes sense that this loss had shaped Kira's perspective and personality, and it may have contributed to his gloomy outlook on life. Kira's story truly begins on the day that he had entered the Shinigami Academy. He went to visit his parents' grave, and it is there that he had met Renji Abarai for the first time, who had fallen out of a tree onto his parents' grave. Rukia had then appeared and had told off Renji for having fallen asleep in the tree, and this is where the three of them had gradually become friends. Within the Shinigami Academy, Kira quickly distinguished himself as a prodigy, especially excelling in Kido while maintaining his competency in swordsmanship. He was actually placed in an accelerated class for gifted Shinigami alongside Renji and Momo. Kira's early success within the academy had masked some deeper problems with his character. While outwardly he was confident about his abilities, even stating that he may even be able to surpass his senior Shuhei Hisagi, but on the inside there remained an underlying current of self-doubt which would later end up defining his character. A key moment for Kira's development had come during a training mission to the world of the living, and this had started as a routine console ritual, but it turned into a terrifying encounter with multiple hollows, which had resulted in the death of one of their instructors. This incident revealed both Kira's tactical ability and his loyalty to his friends. When Momo had rushed to help her senior Hisagi, Kira and Renji had followed her despite their fear. Thanks to the timely intervention of Aizen and Gin, not only were their lives saved, but it also had set the stage for future relationships which would have a profound impact on the journey of Kira. After he had graduated from the Shinigami Academy, Kira had first served within the 5th Division under Aizen before later being appointed under the 4th Division, where he had developed vital healing skills which would prove to be useful in the future. Ultimately, he ended up becoming the lieutenant of the 3rd Division under Gin Ichimaru, and Gin would have the most significant influence upon the development of Kira, shaping both his leadership ability as well as his understanding of duty versus personal loyalty. In question 142 asked on Kubo's official fan club, Kubo reveals that when Kira was serving under the 4th Division, it was Aizen who had recommended to Unohana that he be transferred to the 3rd Division. During the Soul Society arc, Kira is among a group of Shinigami who had witnessed the arrival of Ichigo and the others within Rukongai. He is also present when the lieutenants are first briefed about Ichigo and the others' invasion of the Serete, immediately placing him in a position where his duties and relationships will be tested. After Renji's defeat by Ichigo, Renji is brought in wounded as we see Kira's compassionate side as he alongside Momo watch over that old friend from the Shinigami Academy. However, Byakuya arrives and orders Renji to be imprisoned. Kira's response here reveals his deep-seated adherence to hierarchy. Rather than joining Momo in protesting Byakuya's decision with this really harsh order, Kira quickly moves to apologize to Byakuya and encourages Momo to do the same. This was one of the first examples of Kira suppressing his own personal feelings in favor of maintaining order and respecting authority. One of the key moments for Kira's character during the Soul Society arc is when Momo, who is devastated by the death of Aizen, attempts to attack Gin Ichimaru. Kira intervenes, blocking her attack not out of malice, but from an unwavering sense of duty to his captain. As he tells her that he doesn't care what her reason for attacking Gin is, he cannot allow her to point her sword at his captain. After she continues to yell at Kira to get out of the way, to which he refuses, it results in her unleashing her Shikai and using its ability against him. Kira still tries to reason with her, but she fires off another blast from her Shikai towards him as he then activates his own Shikai. As they charge towards each other, they are countered by the arrival of Hitsugaya, who immediately stops them from fighting. He then orders for the two of them to be arrested and imprisoned. While imprisoned, Kira struggles and hates himself for having raised his sword against Momo. After all, he considers her to be one of his closest friends. Before he can ponder on this for too long, he is interrupted by the arrival of his captain, who offers to free him. While Kira and Gin are walking through the Serete, they are confronted by Hitsugaya, who had figured out that it was was Gin who was responsible for breaking Kira out of prison. Hitsugaya attempts to kill him before Momo has the chance to, but then Momo arrives and shockingly points her sword at Hitsugaya. Gin advises Kira to back off unless he wants to be killed by Hitsugaya, as the captain of the 10th Division advises him that backing up is not enough and that he should leave the area altogether, telling Kira not to stop running even after they leave his sight, hinting at the incredible power that Hitsugaya is about to unleash against Gin. He warns Kira that if he stays within 7 miles of where they are fighting, then he cannot guarantee that he won't be dragged into the fight. Kira then witnesses the incredible Shikai release of Hitsugaya as he sees it for the first time and is amazed by its incredible power. Kira's role becomes apparent after we learn about Aizen's true motives against the Soul Society. Kira had fallen victim as a pawn within Aizen's plan, as his unwavering loyalty was exploited as a weakness and expertly manipulated by Gin. Tensions rise within the Central 46 compound, where Kira faces off against Captain Hitsugaya and Rangiku. In an incredible display of psychological warfare, Kira uses Hitsugaya's concern for Momo against him, revealing that she has been following them. This manipulation, while effective, shows how Kira's actions are being guided by Gin's influence. Kira believes that he is serving a noble purpose, but he is blind to the ulterior motives of his captain. This demonstrates how Kira's loyalty can be weaponized against the other Shinigami, even his friends from his days at the Shinigami Academy. His subsequent battle against Rangiku is an amazing visual metaphor, as his Zanpakuto Wabisuke has an ability to double the weight of anything that it strikes, as this reflects his very own burden of duty and the weight of his actions. However, when Rangiku explains that if her Zanpakuto is too heavy, then she just won't carry it, it shows how Kira's rigid adherence to authority can be overcome by simply choosing to break free from those self-imposed constraints. Rangiku reveals that his ability to affect the weight of a Zanpakuto is pretty much useless against her own Zanpakuto's ability to dissolve into ash. After their fight, Kira learns from Isane that his captain was a traitor. Kira, who seems to be physically and mentally defeated, remembers that they had promised that they weren't going to hurt Momo. A week after this, Kira visits Rangiku in the 10th Division barracks in order to apologize. The two of them proceed to get drunk as they comment on how they don't need Gin. The time that they spend together here is an attempt to deal with the betrayal that they feel from Gin. Following this meeting, it seems like Kira's actions have been forgiven since they had all been manipulated by Aizen, Gin and Tozen in one way or another. We see Kira again during the fake Karakura Town arc, where he is tasked with protecting one of the 4 pillars, keeping the real Karakura Town safe. It is here where he faces off against one of Baragon's Frashion called Abirama Redder. Kira's tactical abilities are brilliantly showcased here. When Abirama attempts to mock him for his loyalty to Gin Ichimaru, we see Kira's measured response, as he refuses to let emotion cloud his judgment. Kira's strategic use of Wabisuke against Abirama's steel feathers demonstrates his analytical ability, turning his opponent's strength into their downfall. What makes this battle interesting is Kira's memorable speech about the nature of war. Abirama views battle as glorious and exciting, while Kira states that his perspective is that battle should be filled with despair and darkness, as this would serve as a deterrent to any future conflict. His beliefs are reflected in the way that he defeats Abirama, as he prays that his opponent never forgives him. Later in the story arc, we see another side to Kira's character when he displays the abilities of a healer, drawing on his past experiences within the 4th Division. He helps an injured Momo and Rangiku during their battle against Aion. After Aion takes out Hisagi in Iba, it moves towards attacking Kira, but then Head Captain Yamamoto intervenes. Kira asks for forgiveness, but he is told by the head captain to keep his barrier firm because their battle is not over yet. Kira continues to observe the battles against the Espada while he heals the injured lieutenants. In chapter 392, when it appears as though Aizen has been outsmarted and stabbed from behind, Kira yells out that they have won, but then Momo gets up and begins to walk away. As Kira and Iba question where she is going, but she doesn't answer, as she then turns and swings a zanpakuto at them as the two of them are cut down, as Momo is revealed to be Aizen, as we learn that the Shinigami were under his Kyoka Suigetsu the entire time. Later in the story arc, Kira is seen on the ground as he calls out to Gin while watching him battle Ichigo. Kira then notices that Rangiku is rushing towards the fight. He tries to move towards her but ends up injuring himself, as he states that Rangiku has only been healed partway to the point that her life would be sustained and nothing more, thus explaining why he was so insistent upon calling out to her. So that happens in chapter 405, and it's the last time that we see Kira's character during the Fate Karakura Town arc. And we don't see him again until chapter 489 during the 1000-Year Blood War arc. At the start of the story arc, he uses his tactical abilities to investigate the mysterious disappearances within Rukongai. His deductive reasoning abilities shine through as he pieces together critical evidence, noting how the presence of sandal prints beyond District 50 would suggest that Shinigami were involved in the disappearance of the Rukongai residents. This is because those impoverished regions of Rukongai wouldn't have access to such footwear. Kira here even is willing to question authority, as he goes as far as to confront Nemu about the potential of her captain's involvement. Now, during the first Quincy invasion, Kira faces his most defining moment as he leads his division against the Quincy, as he encounters Bazz-B at one of the mysterious blue flame pillars. In a shocking turn of events, Bazz-B's Burner Finger 1 attack literally tears through Kira's body, destroying a significant portion of his right side. This devastating injury would have meant death for most Shinigami, but thanks to Mayuri's intervention, it results in Kira being resurrected, with some notable modifications being made to his body. So the right side of his body has a gaping hole which is propped up with several metal rods, and his entire right arm has been replaced with an artificial limb. This is revealed to us in chapter 520.5, and between this and Kira's next appearance in the manga, which is in chapter 654, we do have a small side story involving Kira's character, which takes place during the second invasion of the Serete, and this is told within the Beginning of the Revive of Tomorrow short story written by Ryogo Narita. This involves the Sternritter Shaz Domino, who attacks the Central 46 chambers as he intends to find information on the Hokyoku so that he can transcend his limits and become a holified Quincy. This is where the Sternritter Shaz Domino ends up being confronted by Kira as he cuts off his arm. Kira then throws some rubble towards Shaz, which the Quincy effortlessly evades. This is then followed by Kira unleashing Hado 58 Tenran, which throws him into the Central 46 living quarters. The Sternritter fires multiple daggers towards Kira, but he deflects them by using Wabisuke as the daggers become heavier. Kira then uses Hado 31 Shaka-Ho and uses the smoke caused by the fireballs to get in front of the Quincy. Shaz evades Kira's strike, but he then uses Hado 58 Tenran again and attacks Shaz, proceeding to cut the Quincy's arm. The Sternritter blocks the attack by using Blutveen, but he proceeds to cut off his arm anyway due to Wabisuke making it heavier. This surprises Kira as Shaz then kicks Wabisuke away as he then gets ready to kill Kira. Suddenly, Shaz is then impaled with countless pieces of rubble, which Kira had previously strucken with his zanpakuto, and he had then blown them into the air with Hado 58 Tenran. Kira then proceeds to stab Shaz multiple times as he then sinks into the earth as he constantly regenerates himself by absorbing the ground underneath him. This is because of his body breaking from his own weight, which has been multiplied thanks to Wabisuke. This short story focuses on Kira's resurrection, revealing that Kira is technically dead and his body is maintained through scientific modification powered by the spiritual energy of his fallen comrades. During Beginning of the Revive of Tomorrow, Kira also interacts with Nayura Amakado, a young woman who was born into a noble family and is one of the members of the Central 46. Despite her young age, she actually holds the highest position within the Central 46's 40 sages. This is because she had inherited her position from her father, who was murdered by Aizen 2 years ago. Nayura had demanded to Kira that he needs to return alive, despite knowing that he is already technically dead. The exchange between Nayura and Kira reveals how Kira has become a bridge between the traditions of the Soul Society and the necessity for change, as his character embodies the themes of death and renewal. His this promise to return that he had made to Mayuri was made to satisfy Mayura's determination to reform the Central 46. Mayuri and Kira had actually met earlier when both Kira and Hisagi were brought to a trial that was held within the Central 46, as they were questioned for their involvement in the betrayal of their captains Gin and Tozen. Momo wasn't questioned as she was considered to be a brainwashed victim of Aizen's, as she was simply held under observation. Now during the trial, Kira had actually presented a defense for Gin Ichimaru which had caught Mayura's attention. Mayuri had known so much about Kira thanks to the library records that she has access to that Kira had actually thought of her as a stalker. Despite Mayura's position within the Central 46, she had wanted to understand the Shinigami beyond what was written about them in the official records. Following Kira's death and revival, he had arrived within the Central 46 to protect them from Shaz Domino. Kira had insisted that he was no longer alive, but Mayuri had refused to accept this. Their character dynamics represent a greater theme within Bleach, which is the conflict between stagnated tradition versus the new generation who attempt to usher in growth and evolution. Mayuri, who is inspired by Kira, begins to question the Central 46's rigid stances and seeks to reform it from within. And we can see that Mayuri's actions have in some way been inspired by Kira through the actions and principles that he conveys within the story. Beginning of the Revive of Tomorrow adds several layers of depth to Kira's character, and it's definitely a short story that I would love to see animated within Core 4 of the 1000 Year Blood War arc anime. So Kira is then seen again within chapter 654, and this is where he faces off against those Lil Barrow flamingo creatures which are wreaking havoc within the Serete. After he cuts the head of one of Lil's clones, as he reveals himself to be a dead man, as he crushes two more clones to the ground thanks to the power of his Shikai. As Kira stands ready to face off against the multiple clones, this is the last time that we see him within the manga, and he doesn't make a return until the No Breathes from Hell one-shot chapter, which released in August of 2021. So Kira makes a brief appearance here for a couple of pages, as he is among the lieutenants who gather within the world of the living, as they have assembled in order to capture a hollow, which is a prerequisite ceremony called Jogimen Reibaku, which precedes the Konso Reisei which they are currently doing for Ukitake. Kira offers to guard the perimeter instead of deciding to stay with Ichigo and the other lieutenants, but when the lieutenants are attacked by several beasts of hell, Kira saves Akon from one of them as he doubles the weight of his own foot sevenfold thanks to the power of Wabisake, as he slams his foot into one of the beasts of hell before using his Zanpakuto to cut its head off. Akon then questions whether if Kira is going to stop guarding the perimeter from now on, as Kira states that he enjoys doing so that he can make a fashionably late appearance. Kira's Bankai was brought up by Kubo in 2013 for the repeat and reboot sections before the release of the 1000 Year Blood War arc, where Kubo had stated that conceptualizing Kira's Bankai may be a bit nauseating. Kira has one of the most fascinating Zanpakuto within Bleach, as Wabisuke translates to the Wretched One. Its release command is raise your head as the blade transforms into a unique shape, as the straight Zanpakuto bends twice at a perfect 90-degree angle, as it appears to resemble a squared hook. The shape of a Zanpakuto is deeply symbolic, as it represents a person prostrating themselves either out of submission or apology. Wabisuke has a special ability, as with each strike, Kira can double the weight of whatever he hits. Kira can stack this effect multiple times by striking the same object over and over again. This weight increase is limitless, so it has exponentially devastating effects. There's a really interesting paradox with Wabisuke, with its release command being raise your head, but yet it has the power to force others to bow their own heads. There's a bit of an inverse that occurs with the shape of the Zanpakuto suggesting submission, but yet it has the power to dominate. It's similar to the dual nature of Kira as both a healer and an executioner, with him having healing expertise, and then how he is able to use his Zanpakuto's hook-like shape to decapitate his opponents. Kira definitely has a very unique Zanpakuto ability, and I love how this power was evolved during the one-shot chapter, where he is able to use the weight multiplying effects on his own body and fire off those limbs against his opponent, resulting in devastating attacks. But yeah, we have now reached the point of the video where I do want to hand over the discussion to all of you. This is pretty much everything that I have on the character of Izuru Kira. I definitely do want to make a standalone video covering the short story beginning of the Revive of Tomorrow, so definitely do look forward to that in the future. future, but for the time being, let me know your thoughts on the Lieutenant of the 3rd Division. What do you think about Kira's revival during the 1000-year Blood War arc, and what role do you think he is going to play in the Hell arc? Do you think that beginning of the Revive of Tomorrow will be adapted into the 1000-year Blood War arc anime? I'd love to know all of your thoughts, so definitely continue the discussion in the comments. And lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I cannot wait to see you in my next Bleach character analysis video. A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.